of every 100 of tax revenue we sweat and contribute goes towards the payment of one item called debt. So you can understand why he wants to come and tax us more and do everything he can, because we are at that state where you have just a manager who is simply just receiving money and paying debt. He's not managing any other affair. That is the critical nature we are in.
Wait, Jimmy. What did you say? I had something 80, 100, something. Can you repeat it so that it gets deeper into our own marrow?
Yes. Let me repeat it. Eric, can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay. Let me repeat.
We lost you.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Can you hear me now?
Just repeat that beat of 80, 80, 100, something.
Yeah. I will come back.
How are our taxes being used? One person in his own personal account having 7.4 billion. 7.4 billion. You go up to Bungoma, where I come from, where poverty is the order of the day. 100 million is siphoned from Bungoma. What are you saying? What are you saying? What is he saying?
Yes, go on. What are you saying? Hello, Jimmy. We lost you. Mercy, I can see you here. How are you, Mercy?
Can you hear me?
Just hold on, Jimmy. Mercy?
Can you hear me, Amerix? Amerix, can you hear me?
Jimmy, we lost you. Mercy, can you hear me? Mercy?
We can hear you.
Yes, go on. Can you tell us what happened? Why? Because we say debt. The debt problem is because of the political class. And the political class begin this problem by hoodwinking the people down there, the rural people, the voters. They con and steal from them. Then they graduate from the rural voters to the treasury. Can you please tell us, Mercy, what happened down there in Uasin Gishu? Mercy.
So you can come up top to output mode and select advanced. And then here for your encoder, you're going to have several options based on what you're utilizing. So typically you can use
Mercy, is there a problem from your side?
You use your graphic card if you are on a Windows.
Mercy?
And if you are on a Mac, you want to use your hardware encoder.
Eric, shall I continue? Can you hear me?
Okay, go on. A lot of confusion everywhere.
Sorry, Eric. I was saying, you asked me to repeat that for what is this about every 100? So what has happened is that when Moi handed over the economy of Kenya to Kibaki, he handed over a revenue base of taxation of 170 billion. That's the amount of tax Moi was collecting. And of every 100 shillings of that debt, he was paying 28 of every 100 towards the payment of debt. When Kibaki handed over his economy to Uhuru Muigai Kenyatta, he was collecting 1 trillion. He had taken revenue tax collection to 1 trillion from 170 by widening the economic base of Kenya, removing barriers to our growth. And of every 100 shillings of tax revenue, he was paying 18 shillings towards the payment of debt. Remember, debt is tax in advance. When Uhuru Muigai Kenyatta handed over to William Ruto, but I like to repeat that they were in the same government together. Tax revenue had gone to 2.1 trillion. But for every 100 shillings of that tax revenue, 70 shillings was going to one item called debt payments. Today, the end of the financial year 2023-2024, which ended June 30th, the calculations are the following: that for every 100 shillings, tax revenue has gone to 2.4, but for every 100 shillings of that 2.4, 80 shillings, just under 80 shillings, is going towards the payment of debt. We are in an ICU situation. And unfortunately, as I said earlier, this debt did not come to us. It was never for our benefit. It is contrary to our laws, and we cannot and should not pay it. We should call it what it is, a fraud on the Kenyan people. And that fraud is leading to our strangulation and our enslavement, because this fraud continues for the next 10 years, unabatedly increasing. These debt payments do not decrease. We paid 1.8 this last financial year. We are paying a similar amount, probably even more, because I'm sure the dollar will not remain where it is. Then this coming financial year, it's going to be more in 2026. It will be horrific. This is why we are in the problems we are facing. And I want to explain this debt in terms of its composition. When Moi was rescheduling his debt, he was only dealing with one party called the Paris Club. That is where you have the bilateral donors. You have IMF, you have World Bank, you have what you call the bilateral agreements with, the Western world. Today, we have a Madrid. We have 4 pockets. We have the bilateral Paris Club. We have the Chinese debt. We have something else called the London Club. The London Club debts are the Eurobonds you've been hearing about, are the so-called syndicated loans from these Western banks that are really commercial loans. And then you have the 4th, which is called domestic debt. These bonds and bills people keep subscribing to every so often. A fraud beyond your imagination. These are the 4 pockets. And I can tell you today.
Okay, Jimmy.
Yes.
Okay, Jimmy. Hold on a bit.
Yes.
Mercy, it's you I'm looking for.
I'm going to go down to the bottom, click on the cog, go advanced properties.
Mercy, go on. Your mic is on. Go ahead and speak.
Output, because I do not want the sound. Okay, so there it is. But as you can see,
Mercy.
it's not interactive. I can't scroll or anything. So click.
Mercy, can you hear me?
This will bring up another window. So you can see
Mercy.
actually scrolling down there with that window.
All right. Let me go to Nelson. Nelson, there's that JKIA hist that you have unraveled. Will you please give us a 2-3 minutes overview of the entire hist and the entire theft?
Yes, thank you, Amerix. So over the past few days, I've been going through some documents from KAA, and it's very unfortunate that these things are happening without public participation, and it's in line with what Jimmy Wanjigi is saying, that the people in power right now are just concentrated on how they will enrich themselves and amass as much wealth from our own money and from the debts. And if you look at this deal, okay, let me start from the beginning. So,
hello. Thank you so much for hosting us. Can you hear me?
Yeah, Mercy, we can hear you.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you. Can you hear us? Mercy, can you hear me? Okay.
All right. So thank you so much all for showing up. Thank you so much for hosting us. I'm going to start my presentation with a story. This story is about Chelangat Mutai. Then I will talk about the Finland scandal and the fertilizer scandal together with the bad seeds. Chelangat Mutai was when he was the vice president and the board chair of Highlands Girls High School, which is now Moi Girls High School. Why? For speaking truth to power. Chelangat Mutai did exams from outside, passed, and went to UN. Chelangat Mutai would write articles for the UN magazine that also spoke truth to power. There was a time that UN had a strike, and UN attributed some of her articles to a strike that took place. Chelangat Mutai was expelled again and went back to the village where she started to teach. Chelangat Mutai got a scholarship to go to Harvard through a professor who was at UON. The only thing that they needed from her was a passport. She had accommodation, she had transport, she had everything. But now when it got to the passport, this is where the problem started. Moi declined to give Chelangat Mutai a passport. Instead, he took her file and he put it away and said that she's not going to get a passport. So they sent very many people to go and talk to him, her uncle who was in the military, her relatives, but he refused. And now this started her career. How? Because kama mumekata atoke Kenya, she decided she was going to make Kenya work for her. That is how she became the first woman, first Kalenjin woman, and the youngest member of parliament in Kenya. The Uasin Gishu Finland Canada scandal. I'm not going to talk about myself or any of the students. Today, I will talk about 4 parents, only 4 out of 379 parents. Number 1 is Guka. If you listened to me, ile siku nikiongea, niliuliza those leaders, nikauliza, nyinyi mumesema tukuje meeting hii time. Mumefika saa ngapi? Guka hapa hajakula. The Guka that I was talking about was 75 years old at the time. He lost 1.2 million to this scandal. How? He had a grandson. Aka decide now, okay, now I cannot give you this land because this land is, by the time in Africa, when you need to help yourself, it is not going to be enough. So what am I going to do? This is your inheritance. But because unataka kwenda kusoma, what I am going to do is I am going to sell this land so that I pay for you school fees, you go. So he sold the inheritance of the grandson. Then these people, he was very vocal in the beginning, very, very vocal. He would talk about it, he would come for meetings, and then all of a sudden, he would not show up. You would go look for him and he would just be silent na anawaambia nyinyi mtulie tu watawalipa tu msijali. And so you wonder, what did these guys do to Guka so that he does not want to speak? Because he was not paid. We asked him, were you paid? He said, I was not paid. There's a widow who had her firstborn in this scandal. Again, she paid 1.2 million. And she got this money by selling her property. She sold her plot with her house inside it, inside the plot. So she sold, aliuza nyumba na kauza plot yake. Siku hizi wanaishi kwa rentals. So that huyu mtoto akitoka hapa akuje asaidie siblings wake waone venye wata make, yani watajisaidia tu in this life. Now they are living in a rental house. Unaweza imagine majirani wakipita what they say, because first of all, she's a woman. Secondly, yeye ni widow. Third, sahi aliuza shamba yao. Sasa sahi wako kwa rent. Can you imagine the shame, first of all, and then the mental torture that huyu mzazi ana go through? You have sold everything, wewe na mtoto wako mnakaa hapo kwa nyumba, mnaangaliana, mnashangaa tutafanya nini? There's no, when you ask these people, they wanauliza, wewe ulipea Mandago pesa yako, ama ulipea Chelili, ama ulipea nani? And you know very well, ulilipa kwa county. There's a widower who had 3 kids. He lost 4.2 million to this, 4.2. He sold his 5 acres of land. Na kama wewe unatoka Shags, ata anyone knows how land is so precious. Very precious. Akauza 5 acres. Na tulikuwa tumepewa 2 weeks. 2 weeks mko mmeleta pesa, kama hujaleta pesa unakuwa disqualified. So this man, he's a widower, he has raised his 3 daughters. Ameenda ameuza shamba yake in 14 days. So that means hiyo shamba imeenda at a throwaway price, because you cannot get a buyer in that span of time mwenye atanunua na that amount, like the right amount of money. So he lost 4.2 million. Tulienda mkutano, the last meeting alikuja, tulikuwa na Chelili, Mbarorot na Mandago, na akawaambia mimi nimelipa pesa zangu, niliuza shamba, na akasema niliuza shamba zangu eka 5 nikalipa 4.2 million. Sahi sina mahali pa kuenda, sasa wacha nirudi nyumbani, nikifika huko nikae tu, mtakuja mnizike. The worst thing is that this man would not have found out about this because anatoka huko ndani, ziwa ndani. He would never have found out about this kama these leaders hawangeenda kwa grassroots levels during burials, wedding ceremonies, na kuambia watu, you know what guys, we have this program that is taking people abroad. So he sold his 5 acres. You can imagine. And now when he asks again, anaulizwa, wewe ulipea pesa yako nani? Lastly, I will talk about a parent with 2 kids. This man lost 2.5 million Kenya shillings. He had 2 daughters in this scandal. He paid 2.5 million to the same account. Then this thing, pesa ikapotea. Mpaka sahi bado sisi wote, everyone mwenye alikuwa kwa hii kitu ako Kenya. Ilibidi ametoka Wasingishu kwa sababu this was his pension. Ilikuwa mpango yake. Alikuwa amejiambia, unajua, niko na watoto, nikilipia watoto hizi pesa wanaweza jisaidia kimaisha, waone kenye watafanya, waende wasome, maybe in 1 year 2 years wanaweza rudi Kenya wanisaidie. So hivyo sahi wote wako nyumbani. Imebidi atoke Wasingishu, ameenda Baringo kufanya nini? Farming gani? Ya nyanya. All of us know if you're a farmer, unajua how farming ya nyanya ni very very, yani inahitaji so much care. It is not like maize where you just plant and then you leave, you go. This is tomatoes which require you to stay hapo the whole season. Huyu mtu ametoka civilization, ameenda uko in the middle of nowhere. Why? Again, to start over. A 65-year-old man trying to start over, aone venye atajisaidia kimaisha. Wamechukua hizi pesa, na sahi tena mkienda kuuliza, wanauliza, wewe ulipea Chelili pesa, ulipea Mandago pesa, ulipea Barorot pesa, ulipea nani? But
okay,
that is what your government can do for you.
All right, Mercy. Just
so nyinyi mnawapea pesa and then wana decide mmetupea pesa, sasa let us put it into better use.
Right.
So mbona mna complain na nyinyi mko ndani ya serikali? Si huyu ni mtu wenu mwenye anawatakia mema. Si mmempea pesa, si mumpe time aende put your money into better use. Why are you hurrying? Why are you disturbing
just
people?
hold on, Mercy.
Why can't you wait? We put your money into better use and then decide that we are going to now pay for you school fees if we want, or maybe refund.
All right.
Then they will ask you, why are you fighting a government that is working? Because see, the government is working. Everyone can see. You pay your money, the government works for you. It takes your money, it puts it into better use. And then now what you have to do is wait. Wait so that you can see the fruits of this labor.
All right.
Sasa juzi, they have decided.
All right,
because
Mercy. Hold on there.
I don't want a job. I do not want a job.
Hold on
The
there,
thing
Mercy.
that ilileta all of this is I was supposed to go to school. So why do you want to give me a job when ningekuwa nimeenda kusoma? Now they have seen they cannot get to me. So they start using proxies. You start talking to my family and start telling them, kwani huyu mtoto ameulizia appointment akanyimwa, ameulizia dialogue akanyimwa, ameapproach nani akakataa kumpea kazi. Huyu mtoto anataka kuenda kufanya kazi wapi? Mbona tunaongelea kazi ya mtu mmoja na kuna 379 others who are suffering, who have sold their land, who have sold their property penye wanaishi.
All right. All right, Mercy. Hold in there. Hold there. Hold there.
But that is your government for
She
you.
can't hear me well. Let me bring in Francis. Francis, Gaido, what is your comment on all these issues of politicians stealing money, stealing loans, looting money all over? What do you think is the way forward here? What are we going to do as citizens? Because we cannot keep on talking, tweeting, writing, posting. We need action. We need to take action.
We need to take action. Americs, we are tired of this bullshit. We are tired of the garbage we are seeing everywhere. So let me tell you something weird I observed today. So after the Trump assassination attempt, then immediately I saw Elon Musk. Elon Musk said that he has endorsed Donald Trump for the presidency in light of the happenings of today. And I was like, can you imagine if a businessman in Kenya tried endorsing a candidate for president, what would happen? We have seen the repercussions. We have seen everything that happens in Kenya when you align with one individual or presidential candidate. It's become so bad that if you are involved in politics, you are socially and economically isolated. We saw during especially Uhuru's presidency, which was very vindictive, very toxic, Uhuru ensured that everyone was below him because he wanted to remain as the alpha and omega. And so we have to anchor our economic policies to transcend individual or personal party loyalties and whatever, so that we don't have a situation where we have one singular individual whose only ambition in life is to ensuring everyone else falls so that he can remain on top. That was one thing I noticed. I was just trying to juxtapose what was happening there to here. But then we come to why we are in the situation we are in, who is influencing our policies, who is deliberately crafting our downfall, who is making sure that we remain poor, we remain an oppressed people. Number one, I can always say it's the opportunists, the people who have profited from our misery, our collective misery. Is number one is the foreigners. Personally, I like calling them, please pardon me for my French, I like calling them Muzungu pieces of shit. Not the entire race, but the ones who are narcissistic enough to be able or to craft the ideology that only them should prosper and the rest should be below them. So we've been talking about capital flight, and one of our biggest problem in Kenya is that, and they have hoodwinked us. For instance, I started hearing of something called the African Growth and Opportunity Act, AGOA, since the 80s and then or the 90s and the 2000s, and they made it look like access for our products to the American market is a privilege. Yet we are good designers, yet we have the raw material, yet we have the expertise to, for instance, when you go to America, you go to one of the Woolworths or whatever stores, you go Walmart, I don't think they have Woolworths, but you go to Walmart and whatnot, you're going to see jeans, you're going to see clothes which are written made in Kenya. So they've been made in our EPZ factories here in Athi River and whatnot. And they go there just to be labeled, just to be put a brand, if it's Levi Strauss and whatnot. And yet the same can get into the local market. But then they erect entry barriers. They erect entry barriers for even local entrepreneurs, so that our products, which are made with our cotton and with our labor and with our resources, can access a foreign market. And we cannot get the same quality here. So it's almost like we are beneath them. It's almost like it's been institutionalized. It's almost like the bureaucratic pieces of shit who work in KRA, who work in Treasury, are conspiring with these foreigners to ensure that we remain as oppressed people. You look at our coffee. Our coffee is diminishing in our production, but the best of our coffee is taken outside the country. And then they go and take just a fraction of it, 10%, and then they mix it with 90% of Brazilian coffee, and then it is imported here as Nescafe, and you idiots are here, you are celebrating that you are drinking coffee, yet it is 10% of the same coffee that your parents and grandparents are growing in their farms. You understand? So we've been we've been deliberately put in this state, and then they come and scaremonger you and tell you, build and fashion all these narratives about stability and economic prosperity, but it is them who are prosperous. Us, we are remaining here consuming third-rate products while we have the capacity to build. And one thing we should be focusing on is domestic consumption, value addition, so that when we are exporting something, we are not exporting to a go down in Dubai so that it can be value added and packed and branded. We can do all of that here and create those jobs so that we sell to these Muzungu pieces of shit at the same value, at the same marked up value that they would buy from somebody else. And that is what farmers in Latin America are doing. So it is, and that contempt continues spreading to how we approach our immigration. For instance, in Kenya, any foreigner can land in JKIA and get a visa on arrival. But us, we go to the US Embassy, you are queued there. They make us go through hoops. They take our application fees. They don't even refund. Which is why I was saying the other place we should be occupying is occupying US Embassy. Because how do they charge $200 for an application? Where they already have a quota where they know we are going to allow these ones. They already have a quota. So today they say we are only allowing 20 or 30. So everyone there, you are just going as a formality because they have pre-decided and predetermined who is going to get a visa and who is not going to. And then we have seen this Meg Whitman. She has insinuated herself so much in our policy making. She's taking selfies. She's doing a lot of PDA with Ruto. And I'm saying, who the fuck does she think she is? She's just a mere diplomat brought here to serve a purpose. She's supposed to be neutral. She is not even hiding that she's pro this faction of the political divide. She doesn't care about Kenyans. She's here serving commercial interests. And we as Kenyans are supposed to clap for her because Ruto held an umbrella for her. That is the highest form of contempt. We are here because of colonialism. These are the offshoots of colonialism in the 60s and the 70s, and we still find ourselves in the age of the Aquarius. We are still complying with such nonsensical PR stunts. So if we are saying occupy everywhere, we also include occupy US Embassy because number one, they have enabled this rogue regime. They have facilitated all these things you're seeing, the murders and the genocide and the massacres in Githurai and Rongai. But over and above that, they have implemented, because we have a weak Ministry of Foreign Affairs, they have implemented some immigration policy where Kenyans are made to feel as if we are going to beg for visas. You should make those decisions earlier so that if you're not going to give somebody a visa, you're going to refund 75% of the educational or of the applicational fees. And I think everyone, we are on board with that. I'm going to touch on something about education. We are where we are because number one of our media is very toxic. You have seen how they tried to suppress the numbers of the people in Kware, in Mukuru kwa Jenga. They were lying blatantly. Linus Kaikai, shame on you if you're listening. You're full of shit, you journalists. Journalists should not be allowed anywhere where we are doing our protests or doing our activities. Because if you're going to get the real information from the people and then you go and alter it because you've been paid by State House, then we should not allow you to be there. So journalists are one part of the problem. Number two, we have religion. And number three, we have the educational curriculum. We've been talking about something called the quota system. I've been speaking about it severally. So during the Moi era, they came up, and during 844, they came up with something called the quota system, where now they select, it's almost like they sieve, it's almost like they cherry pick the best brains, which will go to some certain schools which have better facilities than the others. But if you look, and Jimmy was talking about the amount of money that has, we've been expending in the name of debt. We've been collecting. Now this year they've collected 2 trillion in taxes. They are going to borrow another probably 2 to 3 trillion in loans. But we are not seeing anything on the ground. The the counties are not building anything. So the quota system, and there is this misconception that the government built Alliance School or the government built Mangu High School. No, the schools were started and they were donated by colonialists. They were donated by the colonialists because they had grabbed our land. Now they wanted to make some concessions to hoodwink the people who are stupid by then, to be hoodwinked with a church. It was always the Holy Trinity. So there was always a church, a school, and a hospital. So they hoodwink you with that. They give you that trilogy. And so the land was what was donated, and then they mostly donated it to the church. But the parents who took their children there were always charged a development fee, and that development fee was in every fee structure. And that is what was used to build the schools. Over and above that, there used to be harambes. So there is nobody